All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Frostside Chat, our weekly live stream post-session discussion where we talk about what just happened during D&D. This is the chat for session 21. If you've not watched that session yet, please go do that now because there will be spoiler talk. I am your DM Eric, and joining me, we've got Robin's player Chris.
Hello.
Edmund's player Raymond.
Hello.
Finally dealt with the bees.
We did.
Yeah, I honestly didn't have much. It was weird. I prepped so much previously for this whole area, and then you guys kind of skipped dealing with the bees and went to the next dungeon, which was fine. Oops, put my mic. But that means I was kind of already prepped for all this stuff beforehand. So instead of just like a lot of discussion about, do I let them long rest? I don't see a reason to stop them, so why not? And then the other question was like, how much do I want to get into the weeds about the like political Shandar trying to be speaker and all this other stuff, which interestingly is part of the book. The fact that the speaker is dead and the town needs a new speaker, and that should involve, the players in some way.
Right.
So that was my idea there. And I was thinking like, okay, maybe he's like, and you actually I was thinking a lot of the stuff I would do I'd play it by ear depending on what you guys decided to do. And you specifically mentioned we're gonna leave, we're gonna lock this place back up so that that guy didn't steal anything. That was totally in my notes to like, they're gonna come in and steal the shit if these guys leave them open. Yeah. And then
I was thinking half them and half the bees too, like just in case the door opens or something,
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they like keep spreading. And I thought about doing things like, well, if they go back in long rest, I could have the bees like colonize and spread out further and make it more of a thing. And I was like, does that really make things more interesting? Probably not. And it's just a long rest, so I didn't really bother with all that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I honestly, I think this was the best case scenario for the end here, because like otherwise, I mean, this is an endless debate. Like, is D&D's method of war of attrition, draining players of their resources before a final boss fight, good or not?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can be good, but in moderation. Like, sometimes you do want those big fights where everybody has all their resources.
Yeah.
So people can just throw things out like candy. I think sometimes having those fights is a good thing.
I mean, you and I all three of us are all big video game people, and that's something a lot of like RPGs and especially JRPGs will do, is there'll be like a save point right before a big battle, and you're supposed to like get all your shit back because you're up against a really tough fight. And D&D is like the opposite balance. It's like it's supposed to drain, all the other things are supposed to drain all your resources to where you're at the end. You're like, oh, thank God I've still got, these 2 spell slots. I can try to do my shit against the boss, which is a weird way of doing it. And this was a case where, I mean, you guys kicked ass throughout this entire sequence. I don't know if I just undertuned things a little bit or if just the dice kind of fell that way. And you guys played it smart tactically too. The Verbeeg layer and all that. The ooze fight, like everything was done really well. In this case, like I handed you a method of like how to deal with the bees.
Yeah.
And then not this week, but I think last week's crafting, I talked about how, well, maybe even though I've got this like easy out for them to handle the bees, I'm gonna still make it a more climactic ending where like, all right, the bees are gonna come in and like shatter the windows down and start attacking. And that way they only have to fight like, a fourth of the bee army.
Yeah, which
and still make it kind of an exciting thing, and I can use that cool like Hell Wasp stat block, which didn't end up being too terribly dangerous because I couldn't roll worth shit. But
couldn't actually hit. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's not actually that hard, but just that one thing. I think if she gets that stinger off, it can paralyze you, which is can be pretty bad.
If she gets it off.
Yeah. And it's
did you expect us to debate the lever as long as we did?
No, well, I expected there to be some debate, not as long as you did, but over how should we handle this, because that was the big debate about like how how do we deal with this situation. I was a little disappointed that Thimbleweed didn't even try to go talk to them again, or didn't try to do any kind of social situation or diplomacy or anything. Especially after I thought that was part of the
time he talked to them. It felt pretty definitive, like there was no talking to them.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if that was your intention, but it felt like after his first run-in with them that like there's no reasoning with these things. Like they are going to kill everything if we allow them to.
I think he had a little bit more leverage now that he did like help them along and working for them, and then maybe that would help things. I would have. I will say it was not going to be an easy play. It would have been extremely hard. You'd have to say all the right things and still probably made some social checks, but it was a possibility to handle it that way.
Okay,
but it was not going to be an easy road to go on.
I think Reese, and then I think I also just kind of based on 2 sessions ago now. But based on the first encounter with the beast, just sort of assumed there was nothing more to say. I think we both assumed it was like in video game terms, like you've hit all the dialogue options.
I'm just repeating. Like what there's that, yeah.
Like, we're going to murder all the humans. Okay, what if I click this? We're going to murder all the humans.
Yeah.
All right,
there's no longer a skill tree, just a pop-up dialogue. But yeah. No, that was not my intent. I guess I could have had like a bee show up and be like, let's talk to you or something. But you guys were spending so long debating the actual ethics of the lever. And I've mentioned this before. One of my favorite things as a DM is when the players are just talking about something and the DM just sits there and like, this is great. I can just listen to y'all because of something I put forth. Now you all have to debate it amongst each other, whether that's a decision you're making or a choice or whatever you're doing. And this was one of those moments where it's like, holy crap, they're spending a long time deciding about how to handle this, which is great. To me, that means this succeeded. This was supposed to be a compelling decision moment where you're sitting there like staring at the screen going, do I push A or B or whatever?
Yeah.
And yes, it's my post-session. I really wanted a popsicle. I searched my freezer, but I am out of my frozen yogurt, mint, chocolate chip popsicle, so I'm eating a lollipop. The fight was kind of easy, Jay. Well, I mentioned that.
Was it easy, or did we just play it right?
Both. I mean, it's a dice-based game, so clearly the dice can just go one way or the other. So me missing attacks, for example, it's just the way the dice fell. Tactically, you guys did the exact smart thing, which honestly, I'm beginning to fear barbarians because Frey is such a good, effective tank, especially the fact that she's got. I didn't realize. I guess it's a halfling thing where she had stout, or was it maybe it was a feat she took. I don't remember, but I didn't realize she was resistant to poison, which is obviously a big chunk of their damage. So when she's raging, she was taking almost no damage from their attacks.
Yeah.
And had the good con saves to mitigate the environmental effects and their stinging things and everything. So she was just tanking that shit like crazy. And she played it smart where she's like, all right, let's get everybody out of the room. I'm going to sit here and tank all these creatures. And they're not like tactically smart enough to like go to the back line and fuck up the people that aren't, able to take all that damage. So tactically, yes, you guys played it very smart.
Even if they had thought of that, it would have taken them a lot of effort to do it. They would have either had to go through the door or break through another pane of glass to get to the back line.
Which, notice how I teased the fact before that happened that glass was scratched and cracked and everything because they had been going at it. The other one is not so much, so because they hadn't been inside the office yet. So who knows if they would have even made it through there. And yeah, I did forget about a lot of rules in that fight because I put a lot of... That's a problem I have is I'm never good at running a lot of complex fights that have a lot of things going on. I hate spellcasters for that reason. Like, I have to just say, like, okay, you're going to run these, like, 2 spells because it's just... I don't want to be the one that's going to sit there and be like, okay, what does this do? Let me look this up. And this was a case where there was the way I ruled it was very fast and loose, which was... It was a DC 12 con save. Everybody had to make if they were affected by that gas... If a regular bee, if a giant bee failed, they were just gonna die. I was just gonna kill them because I was like, whatever. It's every round. It's not designed to last that long anyway.
Yeah. If
they succeeded, nothing happened. The queen bee, if she failed, she took damage and she had 50 some hit points. I rolled a 3d8 for her damage and she took 20 damage from that initial poison. So I was like, as scary as she is, I just took off like half my boss's health. Just from the poison stuff, which I mean, that's how I'm flavoring it. Like the poison is affecting the bees. So what's funny is you guys were freaking out so much about this boss, and I was like, she's not. From my point of view, she's not that strong, but it was.
But we couldn't.
You didn't
touch
know
her, though, for a while.
Correct.
For a while, that her AC was keeping the hits from her, and she was making all the fucking spell saves.
Which is like the opposite of a fun fight. I feel like it's if somebody's not really nobody's taking damage, but it's just the fight's lasting forever because she's just tanking it so much. True. So that ended up, unfortunately, doing the opposite thing, and that makes it fun in D&D, which everybody's like, fast and loose with damage left and right. This one was like nobody was taking any damage. Including the boss, but still she wasn't really hitting anybody either. Like, it wasn't very effective. And even when she did hit somebody, like, it only did like 5 damage. So it wasn't that, for that reason, it wasn't that dynamic, although you guys all made it very fun because you were all doing wacky shit. I will say the environment made it interesting. The fact that it was
true.
in this office in a very closed space with poison coming in. You know, Ray
You
put
had
up the
they had
web.
the different levels, and you had the doors.
Yeah,
you
the
had
door
different-
opening and closing, and you guys
Yeah,
casting spells through the window. That, I think, is what made it interesting, not the actual enemies,
That's
but
true.
just the fact that
If
you
they
guys
just
had this.
a single solid plane, and it just and these same enemies.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot less interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's her subrace, Stout Halfling. Okay. No, barbs are just ridiculous. They are. This is our first time we've encountered a barbarian, and I've been very impressed with their tankiness. That have, which I guess the big weakness is it's only having like martial type damage. I believe you're only having bludgeoning, slashing, or piercing. So technically, if I ever had elemental damage, that would still be doing the full gamut. But even still, geez.
Or like they're suggesting like with saves or saves that barbarians aren't very good at.
Right, which is where the Dwergar were able to do like a few cool things because they were like tapping her
like
mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a huge scary thing. You've got this super powerful warrior that you don't want them to lose their mind.
Yep. We were a bit off the rails this session.
It was very off the rails. There was a lot of it's like the mood we were all in. We were all in a very like erudite, like sipping our wine around a table mood. We're just like discussing things. It just
we talked about like old movies at one point.
Yeah, you brought up Old Yeller about the having to put something down, and that made us go into this whole like
there was
dog
English
movie.
Lit. There was like all the books we read in high school and how they're all bummers.
Yeah. I think Reese just said something like, don't read any books ever or something. And then we all went into like, yeah, why are books bummers in English class? So
and there was like door architecture. Then there was...
Yeah, we talked about which way the doors open. Those are the details that, no, I do not think about as a DM.
Yeah.
Whatever makes it more interesting is my rule.
Yep.
I'm glad you guys both took the... Or no, it was Thimbleweed actually that took the pearl, and then Edmund took the wand.
Yeah.
I
took the crossbow.
Right. Because I was looking in there thinking, like, okay, who doesn't have items yet? And then I saw that those items were actually in the book.
Oh.
As written. In that tomb is a pearl of power and a wand of the War Mage. Because usually I have to tweak magic items to make them fit our group, or something I didn't like and made it better. And this is a rare time where I'm just gonna fucking use these same items because our spellcasters don't have a whole lot of stuff right now.
Right.
And yeah,
just so I'm clear, that crossbow isn't itself magical, right?
No,
it's only those 5 darts that actually have.
Yeah, that was kind of a special thing I was doing, where it's a regular crossbow, hand crossbow that just fires these unique kind of ammunition.
Okay.
That, again, like using a Fallout game as an example, that had kind of whatever unique stuff that was literally just fires like tranq darts at people that can knock them out.
That's
I'm sure that'll bite me in the ass at some point, but I thought that was a fun thing to give out.
I really wanted it because it's another one. It's an opportunity for me to combo my unsettling words with a save throw, and then
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I definitely want this, but yeah, even though it didn't work out for me tonight, I don't know what the fuck was up. Well, I don't know what the fuck was up with your Queen Bee because.
Making the saves.
It's not like Reese and I's saves are that bad. Like, our saves are fine.
Yeah.
She was just making them left and right.
Yeah.
And that's just the way the dice were going, I think. Like, she had, like, I think on her, it was like, I forget what Reese's was. It was Dex on the Entangle. And then Fairy Fire may have also been Dex. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pulling up her character sheet right now.
But then mine were both Wisdom, I think.
So she, you guys targeted all her good saves, basically. She's based on the Hell Wasp, which is literally like a demon wasp from Descent into Avernus. She's a CR5, which is pretty legit. As I mentioned, average of 50 hit points. She has an AC of 19, which is pretty crazy. Her offense isn't that great. She has a +7 to hit. Her Stinger does an average of maybe 15 damage if you take all that poison damage and piercing. And then her Talons do an average of 11 damage if they hit. She gets to attack both of them at the same turn. But her saves, she has a Dex +5, a Wisdom of +3, and her Strength is +4. So she's just kind of a tanky boss.
Yeah.
and you guys discovered that slowly throughout that entire fight. You guys were just hitting all of her saves. It's like, wow, for once this random creature just has like really good saves on like all the things that you're targeting with. But it was weird because, like I said, D&D makes it fun when you've got kind of almost glass cannon enemies. You know, when they don't stick around too long, but they're doing a lot of damage. And she was really the opposite of that. She was not doing a lot of damage, but she was sticking around for so long. I'm kind of glad I did all that poison damage to her early, because she would have had 20 more hit points to burn through in that fight.
I will say the fight lasted as long as it was gonna last before it got tedious. So yeah, yes, I agree with you. It's sort of like.
Yeah.
Whatever damage wise.
I thought about having another bee just drop dead and just having it, but I was like, let's stick around for a little bit. But I was like, I mean, the fight's basically ended once the queen is ended. There's only one bee. Surely somebody's going to take it. And then like 3 people like missed or did something that didn't happen. I was like, all right, somebody do this. And finally, Raymond hit with the thorn whip and did 5 damage. It had 7 health. I'm like, you fucking kill it. Whatever. It's done.
It's over.
It's done. I'm not going to have this fucking bee take 5 damage and then stick around with 2 hit points. It's stupid.
Right. Especially since the queen had just died, I kind of half expected her to be a load bearing boss.
A load bearing boss, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought of that too. Like all the bees eventually do it, and I was like, well, whatever. Almost.
Like 1 bee left. Yeah, it's not like that big a deal.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, there were obviously a ton of bees in this area. I think you ended up fighting 4 of the giant bee stat blocks, which are not too strong. They're CR half. Although they do about the same damage as the queen bee with their sting, they just don't have hardly any hit points, AC, and their attack rolls isn't as strong.
Right.
But I killed off the swarms. Swarms are bad news because they were small, so I'm just going to nuke them early. And you probably only fought less than half of the bees in this room, and then obviously I was just going to have all the other ones in the actual apiary just die off.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think we would have had any problem fighting them all.
Yeah.
Especially like funneling them in like we were doing there.
Mm-hmm.
It just like it would have been tedious.
It would have been.
Just
I think so.
Like, yes, just twice as many bees. They're coming in. They're attacking Frey.
Especially for your part, if you guys had a sorcerer or a wizard with just a fireball or something, like it would just fucking nuke everything, because they all had an average of 10 hit points. There's just so many of them. Right. But none of you really have, I don't think, good like AoE offensive spells.
No.
You guys are all about like crowd control and high single target damage.
Yep.
Which crowd control would work, but yeah, it would have been. You guys definitely made the right call. And that's why I did it that way, is to make it a little bit more palatable and easier.
Yeah. Okay, hypothetical time.
Yeah.
What would have happened had we let the bees out into the cold? Did you have a plan for that? I mean, we were talking about it like the last 2 weeks, so I hope you did.
It wasn't really a strict plan. I mean, it was really just, like I said, honestly, anything that happens with this town, I don't really care. Same thing as, it just, whatever makes it more interesting. It's, nothing that happens here is integral to the plot.
Sure.
And the overall story. It's just this town specifically. Yes, I think you guys are correct that the cold would have eventually succumb to that, but you're not gonna like kill them instantly, and they would still have this as a home base, and like they're all like fleeing out to kill people. So essentially, if you guys had just left them out and left this town, there probably would have been an epilogue somewhere after the fact that like there's a war going on between the bees and these poor townsfolk. They ended up killing each other left and right, and the town is just kind of destroyed as a result. Would have been my thing I was doing. I mean, I don't know. I did not envision a scenario where you would just let them out and then sit back and like watch things unfold. That felt weird to me. I was like, if they're gonna just leave the situation and not have to deal with it, that's fine. I'll just explain, in an epilogue later what happens. Or they're gonna deal with the situation. I didn't have a situation where you guys were gonna just like let things stand and watch them unfold. And I was like, well, I don't want to.
I kind of wish we had done that now, because just to
try to come up with something. Yeah, just now I have to come up with like a whole bee battle zone, like
finding it. Kind of what you're talking about though is kind of something that we didn't consider when we were thinking about this. I think it was last week. We're talking about, well, if we let them out, they'll all leave and they'll all freeze from the cold.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is that if we had opened the doors to them and said like, yeah, you're free, not all of them would have left. They would have they would have kind of stayed in that.
Yeah, they would have played it smart. They would have sent like some scouts and some vanguard units out and kept spreading out in the thing and used that as a home base, and and eventually invaded and started their colonies in different houses and done all that. And
which is not, I don't think, what we were imagining whenever we said we're going with them out in the cold. We were imagining like, yeah, they all just go out into the freezing cold. And
they're not just like insanely stupid. I mean, they don't. I mean, they understand like weather conditions, and they'll feel that cold immediately and be like, okay, now we need to be smart and get to like all these places. And
yeah. Which, by the way, was it magic keeping that place warm? This was like 2 sessions ago. I know, but
I was gonna hand wave it off. Like they had some method of keeping the place warm, and maybe some heated like tubes or natural geothermal energy underneath. Like I don't. At some point, I was like, I think at some point I was literally talking about, okay, when they pull the alarm, there's gonna be klaxons blaring and alarms ring. I was like, okay, wait a minute, I'm getting too modern with this. I need to back off, because I was literally picturing like like a Fallout side quest or something. I was like, all right, we're still.
Which is kind of struck me about this entire place, like all the glass walls. I'm like,
yeah.
Is this okay? Sure. I don't know of any other scenario where glass has existed. Well, I guess there's windows.
There's windows, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I guess there are. I don't know why I was hanging up on like the glass walls, but for some reason, that strikes me as very like modern. The whole, like large glass windows looking out.
I mean, it's still probably rare, yeah, but obviously this is supposed to be a very nice company that had, pretty, like I said, spared no expense.
Right.
But yeah, I think I caught myself doing that when I was like writing it down. I was like, all right, alarms blaring and lights flashing. I was like, wait a minute, this isn't like a fucking modern like security system. There's just like, I don't know what the security system would be like, some kind of like chimes ringing in the background or something. But at some point I stopped trying to be strict on that.
Yeah. So regardless of what we did, the bees were going to attack us in the office, right?
No.
I'm wondering. No? Okay. Because I was wondering if Thimbleweed's speech and antagonizing of them was what led to the fight.
That was funny that he did that, because that was my plan was like, if they pull the lever and thus trigger this whole problem, the bees are going to notice you guys are up there and they're going to crash in there and try to figure it out. They're not, horribly stupid. And I'm just going to make it like this desperate attempt to like escape, essentially, the poisonous cloud. They're just trying to get everywhere and they're going crazy and they're just bashing their way in here. And the queen would eventually recognize, Thimbleweed and stuff. But because we fucking did that, it made so much more sense from my point of view. It's like, oh, I literally wrote in my cutscene, like, and then the bee queen comes roaring up and it's like, she's already there.
Yeah.
Because he like antagonized her. So that actually worked beautifully. That was part of my script, was to have that trigger if you guys pull the lever. If you don't pull the lever, then they wouldn't do that, and you guys could just go and decide however you wanted to go after them in that dungeon.
Right.
But that was joyful for me. I was like, holy shit, you're going to summon... It's going to make my job a lot easier, because the bees are absolutely going to crash in this fucking window and fuck you guys up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or not at all, because you guys took hardly any, which is a lot of how these fights happen. Like, Frey takes a little bit of damage and everybody's okay.
Yep.
Although you and Thimbleweed burning through spells like fucking candy.
To no effect.
Yeah.
Also, but...
it was honestly what do you call it when you're it's the opposite of cut your loss. You're tilting, I guess, when you're like still trying to get it done. It's like, God damn it needs to happen.
more and more into it every time. Like, I can do this. Fuck it. I can do this.
It's sunk cost, I think, maybe. It's sunk cost. Yeah. It's like, I'm already in so far, I gotta keep getting this spell until it goes off.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this was a ton of custom content on my end.
I
think it was fun. Maybe I could have made things a little more challenging, because you guys kind of blared through it with lightning speed, but story-wise and all the fun shit you guys did, it was very enjoyable from my end.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think what you could have done to make it more challenging. I don't know. I don't even know if necessarily more enemies would have done it in this scenario, because the problem wasn't the number of enemies. The problem was like how we approached the situations. We sort of singled out individual enemies.
I mean, I could have done the thing that what you guys were teasing here is that it does nothing. Like, it's broken, or it doesn't affect the bees well enough or something, and just they assault you through the window and you have to fight all the bees anyway. But I still think that would have been really tedious to have to fight them all.
Because of the way we did it, that would have just been tedious, because once again, Frey would have been taking
all that damage. Yeah, that's true.
and we would have all been outside, just sort of
Safely, like, behind, closing the doors. Yeah, that's true. Nice. Steal away, Jason, for sure.
What's that? Yeah.
Enjoys the subplot.
Oh, yes. You gonna steal it? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just I liked a lot of the content in chapter 1. There's a lot of fun stuff. I think I ran The Beautiful Mind pretty close to what was written. I think I made the kobold just more active in that dungeon. And Mountain Climb was very close to as written. I changed some stuff here and there that I can't talk about yet. The Dweger Outpost was pretty close to as written, and then we started changing up the last two, where I changed up the Air Denival, that whole area, and then we did use that map, but I changed the whole storyline. And then here I added an entirely new map based on like 3 different other maps I put together.
That's great.
And added a whole storyline on top of us. This is probably actually the one I changed the most. And it'll probably be
evidence, which is evidence because we spent like 3 sessions doing this quest, I think, right?
This would have been the 5th, but technically the first. I mean, the way I organize them is like, okay, you left that area now. That's the first session of the next area. So technically, the first one of this quest line was that whole Knoll Cave.
Oh, right.
So that technically doesn't count, but in terms of my organization, that was part 1 of The Mead Must Flow.
Okay.
But this was... Yeah, so... The... Session 2 is when you guys arrived here, you spoke to the citizens, you made it through like the gift shop and stuff, and then Thimbleweed got dragged off. Session 3, we picked up from there, and then you ended up fighting the oozes. And then right. Session 4, you did the entire layer, the cave layer. Mm-hmm. And then this was session 5. And this session is the one I thought, this could go really quick. If you guys roll up into the office, long rest can, it doesn't take any time, and just pull that lever, and then we have this fight, that could go by pretty quick, the way I've got this fight set up. So that's why I was asking last go, like, God, what if we have like an hour left of the session? Do I want to do a little bit of the next one? And then it turns out not only do we keep going off the rails and having fun with that, but you guys spent so long debating over the lever itself, so that by the time the fight happened and by the time the fight was over, I was like, holy shit, this took a full-length session for literally like 1 room and 1 like combat encounter.
Yeah.
So I did not expect it to take that long, but thankfully it didn't take longer than that, because I think we ended at a pretty good spot. Which is obviously, as I said before, the toughest thing to plan is you just don't know the pacing. You don't know how long any one of these sections is going to last.
Yeah.
I will, Jay, for sure. Chris's homebrew is the best shit. Like his entire last campaign.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you. How'd you feel about the epilogue stuff? The town speaker section. I know that felt like an epilogue, certainly.
Sure.
At the end,
yeah.
We're
it was just to wrap up some events. Yeah, I think Heather did a great fucking job dealing with Shandar and just kind of bullying him in a really fun way. So I rolled with that, the bee corpse and destroying it and things, and just kind of scaring him off. That all worked great. I liked that you were like, maybe not like nominate the corporate lady as your next speaker. All that was fun.
I mean, okay, listen. I this week was rewatching Chernobyl, which is about the Soviet Union in the 80s.
Yeah.
Where all of the industry is owned by the government, and how fucking bad that was. That like how corrupt and just venal the entire system was because of it. So that's why I was coming to the session, specifically having watched that show.
This is communism.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Industry should not be like run by the government.
This is the opposite.
And there should be government, and they should be separate.
This is almost the opposite effect. This is a corporation now getting into government, which is kind of like capitalism doing that at that point. That's like instead of the government running the labor, this is the actual industry is now just gotten so powerful that it is basically the government. This is like the Shadowrun universe now.
You're right. It's more Shadowrun with the corporations are the government.
That's
Yeah. Neither one is good. There should be two separate but equal power. Or not, maybe not equal, but
Checks and
separate
balances.
powers.
Checks and
Yes,
balances.
exactly. So, in
Yeah.
case anyone was wondering why I felt the need to speak on that
It's
point at
because
the
of
end of the
Chernobyl.
session, it's because of Chernobyl.
That's funny. And that was another situation where there wasn't a right or wrong answer. It was like, I'm just throwing that out there. You guys can decide how you want to roll with that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was up to you guys how you want to. And really, like I said, it doesn't really matter. Like in the long scheme of things, like it's you guys leave and the town is kind of on its own for deciding its next fate. And if I remember, I'll create an epilogue for that of this one town. Yeah, could meet special interest groups. Yep. There'll be some political action committees for Goodmead.
That's right.
Anything else about these Frostside chats when we end an entire quest tend to be longer, so anything about this entire quest line or this session?
No, I think you did a really good job of just basically inventing a whole quest line out of what seems to be bare bones outline.
Yeah, it was. One of the more bare bones. I basically just liked that cave map. And I was like, this is a cool map. We can work with this. It's a neat setting, and the low level giants is kind of a interesting concept. Yeah. And then for some reason I decided to create this whole thing.
I was good. It was really good. It felt like two full dungeons sort of layered on top of each other is what it felt like.
I think I saw this is from Seafoot Games, by the way. I subscribe to their Patreon and get maps from them. And I'm pretty sure I saw this brewery map, which is it's cut off. It's only like a fourth of the map is the upper right, which is where the actual ooze fight was. I saw that map, and I think that's what inspired me, which is what happens to you all the time. You see a map, and you're like, I can work with this.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, it's got B. And then I combined it with, I was like, I think that another map that was like a greenhouse. So I literally like put those maps on top of each other.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, that was a whole Frankenstein map system.
Yep, that's how it goes. That's 100% how it goes for me. I see the art first.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I fit that in? That works perfectly in this instance. If I change this little plot point, then this map works great.
It doesn't usually happen with me. I usually have to do the thing first and then find them, which there's another situation later on. We'll get to some custom content that I'm writing that is definitely that, where I wrote something. I was like, okay, I need this, a map to like fit this situation. But I think we'll be getting back to close to the book as we go to East Haven. Obviously, I still have my personal story take on it, so I'm always going to be modifying parts of it. But that one should be a little bit closer to what is written, especially compared to the last couple weeks. How do you guys feel about not leveling up yet? Because I was really on the wire about that. You should give it to me honest.
It feels like it's time, or it's approaching time.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more we got before 5, but it feels like I mean, the numbers may dispute me here, but it feels like we've been 4 long enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I looked at the sessions like that, and I was like, it feels like it's getting to that time, but if I can just get him a little bit more, which I don't think the next quest will be as long. And keep in mind, this one I invented that entire extra dungeon that was a whole session on top just to fill in the half party thing.
I don't even really measure it by like sessions.
Oh, really?
More like by quest lines. Like how many quest lines have we been through in this at this level? And like,
do you feel like you should be, as you level up, it should take more quests to level up, or do you feel like it should always be like about the same?
Good question.
Because so far, I'm kind of with you, but I feel like at some point, like it should take a little bit longer. Like in my general notes, because it's interesting, you guys technically had choices to do different quests. So I was like, okay, early on, it's like if they do, one quest, which was either Beautiful Mind or Goodmead, then you'll level up. And the next one was like, all right, the next 2 quests you do, you'll level up. And I think that was whatever ended up being, like Mountain Climb and Dwarg Outpost or something. And then it's like, all right, now I wrote it down like, okay, now if you do 2 or 3 quests, you'll level up. And now we just completed 2. So I was like really on the edge of like, now I really got to like get in the weeds. And I even wrote down all the experience that you guys did just to do the math. And the math was still like, even if I was doing full experience and rewarding for quest completions like I was doing back in the day, they weren't quite gonna level up yet. So I feel a
Interesting.
bit more. I still want to try to get ahead of where Tomb was, which so far we are, but
Yeah.
that would require, as long as I level you guys up in the next 10 sessions, we'll be ahead of Tomb.
Oh wow.
But it's not gonna be that long. It'll probably be hopefully with the next like 3 or 4 or something.
What I'll say is, honestly,
And
weirdly
5
enough,
is a big one. 5 is a big power spike as we've gotten
yeah,
familiar with.
I don't remember having this feeling in 2. Maybe I didn't. I just don't remember. But I really want 5 in this campaign. Like 5 is a big one. Maybe this is class wise because bards at 5,
everybody gets big shit.
Inspiration comes back on short rest. I can be dishing out inspiration every fucking turn at 5. So that's sort of my goal, is to just get to 5 and be.
People get third level. You get third level
action.
spell slots.
Yeah.
Your martial attackers. I mean, Frey can attack twice. That's just
Frey
double the
twice.
terror. Like it gets
Yeah.
real crazy for 5th level.
So I feel like once we get into 5, the leveling can slow down and we won't notice as much because 5 is such a power spike.
You get out of the early level thing, yeah.
Yeah, you don't feel like an early level person anymore.
Yeah, which I'd like to get through East Haven if I can for early level stuff, because I think it still would fit a little better. And then I think after that you'll probably get 5, and then the pacing I don't think will ever get too long. Like I really think that's something I fucked up in Tomb is I dragged on the leveling too long, and I'm gonna try to get ahead of that. So
I remember thinking that after the fact, but during Tomb, I don't remember thinking like, oh, I've been for too long. I don't remember thinking that. But I think it's because, well, I don't know. I'm not sure why. But my guess is that it's because Tomb felt very at those low levels.
Yeah,
felt very Adventure of the Weeky. Where like we were doing all these small adventures over time. It wasn't these like larger quests.
This one, it's like 4 or 5 quests a chain. Yeah, and it feels like an appropriate for a milestone moment to happen after you do, especially now that we've done 2 of these big ones.
Right.
Which, again, I was very much on the cusp of like, should I do it or not? It feels like they've been this, level for a while, but hopefully, I'm gonna end up dragging you guys on a little longer.
It's fine. It's fine. No, I don't think that's a negative. It's one of those like when will the beat drop sort of moments.
Yeah.
Like making them hang on for a little while longer just builds the anticipation. It's not a bad thing. It's just increases the hype, right?
Yeah. All right. I think that will do it for Frostside chat. Thank you to Chris and Raymond. I am Eric. Thank you to all the wonderful fans for watching, and we will see you all next week.
See you then.
Bye.